All right, everybody, welcome back to lesson 4 and drawing time with Anna. Ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da, I'm working on that. Let me have this. All right. As usual, you'll see I have two QR codes on the top. One of them is my friends from Dr. Phones that were very kind to fix my equipment so that way I can kind of get some of this stuff going. Like I said, I want to kind of do a series of lessons, just like intro lessons. So even if you don't have a lot of money, you can learn how to draw. I had a lot of people, I don't come from a very affluent background or a very wealthy background, and I had a lot of people that took the time to teach me how to draw out of their personal time. So this is kind of me passing the buck. You also see Elotes Creek. Some of my artwork is there right now as we speak. You want to check it out, go ahead, go to the website or reach out to Mr. James and he'll tell you my artwork is there or not. But for today, we're going to hyper focus on 2 point perspective. Last week we started with 1 point perspective. Now we're moving to 2 point perspective. So let's go ahead and let's switch the camera. All right. So let's go ahead and start with our usual the supply list. So you're going to be needing paper, pencil, a ruler, or a hard edge. If you don't happen to have a nice fancy ruler or a basic ruler, you can make one out of just a basic piece of paper. And if you go back to lesson 3, it pretty much talks about how to make this. And it doesn't have to be perfect when I say 6 inches. Just think of like 6 divisions. That's pretty much all you need. So let's do a quick recap. Okay, and we're going to continue recapping this over and over and over again. This is Anna's cheat sheet. Okay, so in 1 point perspective, anything vertical, horizontal is not affected by the vanishing point, but anything going at an angle is. And you can see right here, anything vertical or horizontal is not affected, but anything going at an angle is. Now, in 2 point perspective, which is what we're going to cover today, anything going vertical is not affected, but anything going horizontal or at an angle is. And that's because they kind of converge into the same thing. This line right here. Okay, and in 3 point perspective, which we haven't touched on yet, that's going to be the next lesson. All three of these types of line are affected. So today we're going to hyper focus in 2 point perspective. Now, a quick review from last week. We talked about how, depending on where you are or where you're seeing the horizon line, is going to affect the item that's right in front of you. If it's directly in front of you, it's going to look like it's, pretty much you're mostly going to be exposed to two planes. It's going to be in the center. It's going to be at the eye line. So it's going to be right on the horizon line. So it's going to be kind of a meh view, but it works. If you pretty much are looking at an item that is above the horizon line, right here in this case, in relation to where you're viewing it, the horizon line technically gets pushed down because you tend to tilt up. So if you tilt up away from the horizon line, you're looking now at the same item, you'll be exposed to a third plane, which would be the third bottom. It will be the third plane at the bottom, which is the bottom. And the example that I use is if you are on the ground and you see in a plane, you'll be able to see the bottom of the plane and you won't be able to see the top. You'll be able to see the belly of the plane as it's going by. Okay, now right here, if we go ahead and we do the opposite, where we look down at the object. Okay, now the horizon line in relation to your eyes is going to be above. So if the horizon line goes up, but you look down, you'll be exposed now to the third plane, which would be the top of this item. So if this is, I don't know, if this is a shoe, I'm going to draw a really cartoony shoe here. All right, and if you think of the shoe as a rectangle, we have another rectangle stacked on top of it. This is like a really cartoony shoe. We're now seeing the top of the shoe so we can see the detail. In this case, we can see part of the tongue and inside where your foot goes in. And then you'll be able to see the front. And you can see pretty much the upper part of this item. You'll be able to see the top because we're looking down on this object. Obviously, if the object is way lower, obviously it'll look a little different. But that's the point that I'm trying to make. That depending on where you are in relation to the horizon line, it's going to affect how you view this item. If you tilt your head up, the horizon line be pushed down in relation, should be able to see the bottom of the item. If you look down in relation to the horizon line, it pushes the horizon line up, yet allows you to see the top of the object that you're looking at. So it'll expose the top. That doesn't make sense, please let me know. And then right here's the quick examples that we went through. The other thing that I want to recap on is the distance between the vanishing points. The further away the vanishing points are from each other, the flatter the items will look. But the closer they are to each other, the more narrower it's going to make the item look. So just a quick recap. Like I said, go ahead and go back to last week's or the last lesson 3. I keep saying last week because I used to teach on a week-to-week basis. Go ahead and go to the previous lesson and you'll see what I mean. And right here, this is the quick example that we did at the end, which is the objects in it's whole 1 point perspective. However, depending on where you're at, it's going to look something different. If you have an item in 1 point perspective that is directly in the center on the horizon line, this will be the only time you'll be exposed to one plane. Objects that are on the horizon line, but they are directly to the left, right, the north or the south, or top or bottom, you will be exposed to 2 planes because now you're adding some dimension to this object. Now, if you go ahead and you shift it to the corners, such as the top right, top left, bottom right, then you'll be exposed to a 3rd plane because now you're adding additional dimension to this. Yes, meow meow. Sorry, my kitty cat is in the background, and of course she wants attention once I'm working on stuff. Kitties, I love them. I love my kitties, but they could be little butt heads sometimes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start getting into 2 point perspective today. So, what will you need for 2 point perspective? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with some of the basic stuff that we talked about in the past. Okay, so you can either grab your hard edge or you can grab a ruler, and I'm just going to try to keep this simple. And I'm going to start by drawing a 6-inch line or a 6-segment line, either or. So I'm going to start with that. This is going to be our, and I always like to do this horizon line, HR for horizon line, or it's also known as the I line. I swear to God, I cannot draw and speak at the same time. My brain's like derp, just does not like it. Okay, so once we have that, so you always want to establish where your horizon line is based on your user. For right now, we're going to keep it right at I line directly in front of us. All right. From there, you want to establish your vanishing point. So I'm going to establish vanishing point A, establishing vanishing point B. All right. Now with this, now we need to figure out what are we putting in 2-point perspective. So remember, anything going vertical is not affected, but anything going horizontal or at an angle is. So always remember this right here, because now we're doing with this right here, we're doing with 2-point perspective. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab this, divide this into 3 inches. Or the midpoint, whatever, 3 segments. And then from there, I'm going to go half a segment up, half a segment down. So it's going to be a total of 1 inch. One inch. Okay, so now this is going to give me reference point 1 and reference point 2. All right, and this is what we're going to use to create our perspective lines and then find our angular lines. And like I said, if you don't know what that is, go back to lesson 3, and I pretty much walk through it what it is as best as I can. Okay, so here is, I'm using vanishing point A to intercept pretty much the point 1 or the reference point 1, and I'm going to lightly draw this line. And to make sure that I don't lose track of what this is, I'm going to draw a little arrow at the end. And I'm going to repeat that step right here at the bottom as well. And I know this seems kind of boring, but these are the fundamental blocks of drawing. And if you can understand this, everything else kind of snaps into place. But you have to start from the basics. You got to start with the basics and then build your way up. And as I continue building these lessons, I'll start making more complicated objects. So, but for right now, I want to cover the fundamentals. Okay. There we go. Please give me a second. I'm going to turn off the fan. It's a little hot. It's going to be in 100 degrees today here in San Antonio, Texas. So please forgive me if I pass out dead on the video. My goodness. Okay, so from here, now that I have my perspective lines, I want to find my angular lines. Okay, so I'm going to measure out 3/4 of an inch. And if you have a segmented paper, excuse me, you have a segmented paper, simply go ahead, grab the segment, fold it in half so it goes pretty much half and half. So I'm going to do it with two. So you're going to fold half and half, make a marker there that gives you that, and then go ahead and split that in half again. And if you have a better way to doing it, that's totally fine. You are not hurting my feelings. But this will start giving you, there's your half, here's your quarter. So we need something that's 3/4. The difference is going to be from here to here, or just kind of a guess estimation. All right, and from here we're going to go from the top, and again we're going to measure out 3/4. And now that's going to give me my reference point 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we already talked about how anything vertical is not affected in 2-point perspective. So all that I have to do is go ahead and draw an adjacent line right here that lines up, is heading in the same direction. So from here to down here, and that creates a new reference point. All right, and this, notice I'm going to use this perspective line. I'm only going to use the lines created on this side only. Ignore the ones coming. So the perspective lines created by point A is what we're going to use. On this side, the ones that I'm going to be using for reference on side B is going to be these right here, these top right here. All right. Don't worry, I'm going to explain myself again because, you know, I can be a little loopy sometimes. Okay, so we started with a reference line 1, 2. We found 3 and 4 by measuring 3/4 of an inch on both sides. Okay, we use the perspective lines. So if we are heading towards the left, we're going to use the perspective lines that we created heading left to right as our reference points. And then we know everything going vertical is not affected, so we're going to use that until we interact with the next line below, and that will give me now 0.5, and then we're going to repeat that again on the opposite side. If that doesn't make sense, again, just put it in the comments, because I like to improve these videos as I go through it. And again, stuff that makes sense in my head, it might not make sense to somebody else, but I am doing the visuals, so you should be able to follow the visuals as well. So we repeated what we did here, but now on the right side. And because this is on the right side, we're going to use the perspective lines that we created using vanishing point B. We measured at 3/4 of an inch, found the top, drew directly straight up and down until we reached the next perspective line, and that gave us reference point 6. Now, from here, all you got to do is close this out. And then you can clear out the center if you want, so that way it looks pretty. If you have a pen, don't worry about it. Hey, I know there are many times I wanted to draw, and I could not for the life of me find pencil. Regular pencil, mechanical pencil, any pencil. Especially when you're mostly a digital artist, you just kind of get used to not having, I don't know why, you just don't have as many pencils as you normally would if you're doing traditional stuff. And I found myself in that conundrum multiple times where someone's like, hey, you got a pencil? And I'm like, no, I really don't. But you're an artist. Yeah, you're right. I am an artist. I just don't happen to have a pencil right at this moment. Okay, so that's pretty much 2-point perspective. So just a quick recap, and I'm going to make this really fast. You figure out your horizon line. Okay, I am going to figure out my vanishing point A, vanishing point B. And this one I'm just freehanding. Once we do that, we're going to create at the midpoint. In this case, is best of my ability. This is my reference line. This gives me a reference point 1, reference point 2. Okay, now that I have these reference points, I'm going to use the vanishing points to find my perspective lines. All right, this is for A. This is for B. And as you get more experience, you get faster at this. Okay, I'm going to eyeball around 3/4 of a length here. I'm going to do the same the other side. And I'm going to find this new plane here using the top and bottom. And that gives me my box in 2-point perspective. Too easy. Alright, and this is something, like I said, if you need to pause, rewind, try it again, pause, rewind, try it again, it's just fine. I know a lot of people from my teaching time, a lot of people get very confused with all these additional lines. It's almost like it's math all over again. My brain, Dios mío, what do I do? Ah, and it's like their brain, you see their brain slowly exploding. So yeah, so just take your time, rewind, pause, and go again. Okay, so let's go ahead now and let's get more crazy with this. Let's get a little crazier with this. Okay, so just like we did before, we drew items. We're currently drawing items right on the horizon line. Now what I want to do is draw the items like I'm looking, if I'm on the ground looking up, if I'm looking up, I want to draw out this item above the horizon line. So let's go ahead and do that next, but this time in 2-point perspective. All right, let's start with the same usual. So in this case, I'm going to draw up. I'm going to go to the bottom of my page. And you can use a new page every time. I try to use as much as my paper as I can, so I'm not wasting paper. Okay, so there's my line. All right, here's my horizon line, or eye line, whichever you want to call it. Okay, I'm going to set up my vanishing point A, vanishing point B. But this time, instead of putting the marker in the center, I want to shift this a little bit more towards the left. So I'm going to make myself a mark at the 2-inch mark. So technically, if I were to divide this into thirds, so it's 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, I'm going to use the first 2 inches here. Now, what I'm going to do a little different, I'm going to draw the square 1 inch up. So I'm going to give myself some spacing. There's 1 inch, and then I'm going to draw the line up here. This is going to be my reference line. Now this is where I lose some people. Okay, so this right here, this inch, okay, this is dead space. And this is around 1 segment or 1 inch wide. Okay, so this is just dead space, but I'm just kind of putting that as a way to measure it out. Okay, now we have found, now that we created this reference line, and reference line is a term that I came up with. I'm not sure if other people use it, but I like to use it because I need to have a starting point. If I don't have a starting point, I can't figure out the rest of my illustration. But anyway, so this gives me reference point 1 and reference point 2 right here, 1 and 2. All right, now this is going to get a little bit more complicated because as we said before, anytime that you push the item above the horizon line, you're not just going to be exposed to 2 planes, now you're going to be exposed to a 3rd plane. If it's above the horizon line, you're going to see the bottom. If it's below, you're going to see the top of the item. All right, so this one's going to require a few more steps. So I'm going to start with the same way we started up here. I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to cross. I'm going to use that to refer right up here. That's one line. I'm going to create my perspective lines. There we go. So that's 1, and I'm going to repeat that again. And that is 2. 2. Okay. So we're doing one side, now we're doing the left, then we're doing the other side. You want to make sure, this is important, you want to make sure that you're going all the way across. And if you need to, if this is something that will help you, put little letters at the end, so that way you know which reference line, especially when you start getting into like 3-point perspective and above, you want to make sure which reference you are using. So A, B. Okay, so now we found this plane and this plane, or at least the top. So we have found reference point, and I'm just doing this for the sake of simplicity. We have found reference point 3 and reference point 4. Okay, we're going to do as we did before. So anything going vertical is not affected, but anything going vertical or at an angle, it is. So I'm going to use my ruler, And as best as I can, I'm going to draw a straight line down. And that will help me find 5. I'm going to do this again right here. 6. Okay? Not too shabby, right? Okay, so now that we have that, we're not done yet. We found these 2 planes, but we still need to find the bottom. So let me show you how to expose that final plane. So this is where some people get lost. You're going to use vanishing point A and go across reference point 6. See? Opposites. Just to find the bottom plane. But it's still leading in the same direction. I'm going to put a little arrow right here, A, and we're going to repeat the same with B. We're going to use V to go ahead, create the perspective line crossing reference point 5. And the only reason why I use these points of references is because when you're first learning, this seems very overwhelming. So by having like things that you can like identify easily, it makes it easier on you. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase this little dead space thing that I wrote in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and darken this up. So we have, this is this side right here. That's this side right here. That's one side. So this is side 1, side 2. In this case, I'm going to be dramatic. I'm not going to make it too dark. So this is going to be my medium tone. We'll talk about doing the shade a little bit later on. Okay, so this is side 2. So side 1, side 2. And then here's the bottom plane that we have just discovered using the vanishing points to find the bottom plane. This is at the bottom, and we're going to fill this up with dark tones. Now again, I apologize if I got the sniffles or if I'm hot or if I'm sweaty. It is the weather's really fluctuating here in Texas. Yeah, it's very loopy now. There we go. So now we have our box in 2-point perspective, and this time is above the horizon line. So we're looking up at this item. Again, think of the airplane example. I know it's going to look like a sandwich. Flying sandwich. There we go. So, but again, because we're down looking up, we're going to see the bottom of the plane, not the top of the plane. Okay? So let's go ahead and now replicate this one more time, but this time we're going to push the horizon line low. In fact, I could actually reuse this. Haha, I'm done. No, I was kidding. No, I seriously could. I just have to like draw it upside down, but I like to go through the steps over and over so that way you guys get a better idea on how to do this step by step. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do for this. All right, we're going to create ourselves a little exercise to kind of show you guys all the ways to do this. So I'm going to use a fresh sheet. Actually, no, let me do one more time upside down. Actually, this one I'm just going to do quickly. A, B, but this time my item is below the horizon line, meaning we're looking down on it. Using A, we go through 1, 2, and again, after a while, you'll be able to freehand this, but I've done this so many times. I have been drawing since I was 5 years old. And I gotta tell you, if you are a parent of a child that's interested in drawing, let them learn at their own pace. My mom put me through a lot of art classes when I was very little, and the teachers were very rigid and just would not let me express myself. So it kind of turned me off from drawing. And it wasn't until I was like in middle school, high school, where my passion for drawing really rekindled again. So as a kid, I mostly doodle for fun, and that's the way it should be. Art should be fun. It's a form of expression. And I had some wonderful teachers in high school. and they're the ones who kind of turned me on to the art, but they kind of taught me the fundamentals, pretty much what I'm doing right now. Okay. But pretty much you pretty much saw the same process. So I started with the one, cross at one, cross at two. Okay, and I did the same. Cross at three, excuse me, cross, I can talk. Cross at one, cross at two, this found three, four, then I went up. Okay, this created five, six, and then I used the opposite vanishing points to cut across. So this let me find this line. This let me find this line right here, and where they cross, that created the plane at the top. And you can call this vanishing point 7 if you want, or not vanishing point, but point reference point 7, whichever makes it more comfortable for you. But it's pretty much exactly what we did here, but instead it's kind of flipped upside down, or I don't know. I don't know. I can't think straight right now. It is gonna be 106 today. So again, I do have the AC on. I do have the fan on. But if I pass out on the middle of the stream, please forgive me. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do to kind of really walk through this and just kind of cement this. Okay, we have a sheet of paper right here. So this is the 8.5 by 11. All right, so let's go ahead and do two. Okay, so I'm gonna go 2 inches down, 2 inches down. Actually, trying to think this through. So I'm gonna go two, two. Okay, because I'm trying to give space. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I need to leave space to go top to the bottom to the middle. Okay. Okay, so what this right here is 4.5, so 2.25. Okay, so from here to here is 2. From here to here is 2. From here to here is 2.25. From here to here is 2.25. This is I sound crazy right now, but just bear with me. Okay. Okay. Mhm. 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 And especially if you're in an environment where you just don't have the means to get worksheets. Like I said, I'm trying to make this as budget friendly as possible. If you don't happen to have the means, because everybody, if you want to learn how to draw, learn how to draw. Okay, and you don't need to have the fanciest tools. And I keep saying this to some of my friends. Well, I can't draw because I don't have the fancy pen. Well, guess what? If you couldn't draw before, you definitely can't draw now. Now that you have the fancy pen, you need to have the fundamentals. Okay. So now that we have the division both left and right, we're going to draw 3 lines across. And I'll show you guys what I'm going to make here. It's going to sound crazy, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, I promise. And we're going to go through all of these together. Man, my pencil's just not cooperating today. Okay, and we'll modify these as we go through. Okay. 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 So from here, this is an 11 inch paper. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make these tiny for sake of sanity because we're going to make 9 of these. And I'm going to walk you guys through all of these. Okay, I'm going to leave an inch there, another inch there. And I want to do 2 inches, 1 inch gap, 2 inches, 1 inch gap, and 2 inches. And that's fine if there's a bigger gap here. That's not the main concern at this moment. And I'm going to repeat this again. Go down here at the bottom. 2 inches or 2 segments. That's why I'm not doing exact measurements because some folks might have just the paper and the segments might not be even. So I'm just kind of just trying to go with what I got. All right, we're going to repeat the same up here as well. And again, as I continue learning the YouTube platform or these platforms, I'll do my best to respond back to messages. I'm just kind of learning these platforms, so I've always known about them, but it's one of those things that it's not until you really start getting into the nitty gritty that you really start learning the platform. Okay, so at this point you should have 9 different lines. So this is going to become center, it's going to become top, and it's going to become bottom. Okay, or top looking up, looking down on horizon line. Okay, so just kind of giving you a starting point. So let's go ahead and start with the basic one. So we know this is about 2 inches. So we're going to try to find the center. And for this, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, let's try to find the center as best as we want. And draw yourself a reference line. You can make it even or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, so reference A, vanishing point A, vanishing point B. All right, and we're going to walk through the same steps. If the object is right on the horizon line at eye level, we're going to be exposed to 2 planes. And we're going to see that when we go left and right, and then it's going to change as we go through. So right here, there's going to be 2 planes. Okay, so we're going to go to reference point 1, reference point 2, and do the best that you can. You can use the ruler if you want, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to just kind of freehand it. Otherwise, I'm going to be measuring all day long, and you're all going to lose your minds watching me measuring things over and over and over again. And just like we did before. Okay? We use vanishing point A to intercept 1 and 2. Then we use vanishing point B to intercept 1 and 2. And I'm going to move in a little closer to this so that way you guys can see it, because it's a little smaller than what I've done before. And then I'm simply going to guess estimate the length of this box. And I'm going to find the plane to the left. I'm going to erase this. And it's going to be a plane to the right. There we go. So now we have an item. So this is on the horizon line, and this is in the center. Okay, so that's the first one. All right, so let's go ahead and now do left, right. Let's go ahead and shift this item a little bit more to the left. So if this is our halfway line, I'm going to go ahead and kind of divide this into half, and this is going to be where our reference line is over here. And I'm going to freehand my reference line, vanishing point A, vanishing point B, and I'm going to repeat. Intercept on 1, 2, okay, and I'm going to do that. Now remember, objects that are closer to the vanishing points tend to be steeper or tend to be kind of narrower versus objects that are further away. And we talked about this in one of the exercises last week. Here it is. Okay, and right here it's kind of hard to tell, but in this example you're going to see it a little bit better. Excuse my very bad English. I'm in the States for 30 years and I still can't speak English right. It's funny. Okay, so we're using vanishing point A. We're going to intercept with the top and the bottom. And then right here, we're just for fun, we're just going to go ahead and just close this out. We don't want to measure exactly 3/4 of an inch, because if we do, it looks like this is a very elongated building. And we want to give the impression that this is a box. Okay, so just simply just close it out. And then we're just gonna guess estimate on this side too. And just right now I'm just trying to get you some practice with these vanishing points. Just kind of get you into the repetition. And if you want to become more technical later on and have precise measurements, you can do that. But for right now, we're just trying to get the mechanics down. Okay, notice how it's the same thing I did here, but now the box is shifted to the left. And because this side is closer to this vanishing point, this is steeper than the side that is closer to vanishing point B. All right, let's go ahead and repeat. This time it's going to be on the right. So if this is the center point, I'm going to kind of divide this into half. Vanishing point A, vanishing point B, and this is going to be my reference line. 1, 2. Okay, and then from here, let's go ahead and draw my lines. 1, 2, 1, 2, and again you could put little letters at the end so you know which reference line you're using. In this case, this side, I'm just going to narrow it down. And then from this, I'm just kind of guess estimating. And that will give me this box. Yeah, and I don't want to get too crazy with the measurements because I've noticed I've been in adult education for the arts for well over a decade, and I noticed that when I give too many measurements, people kind of get overwhelmed. So that's why for little stuff like this, I say, hey, just experiment. You know, just start with the basics. Let's get the basic mechanics, and then later on, if you want to get more technical, you can. Okay, so now we're done. We're in the center. We're in the center, so we're in the center horizon line. So we're at eye level with the horizon line. The object's in the center and it's 2-point perspective, so we're going to be exposed to 2 planes. 1-point perspective center is the only time you will only be exposed to 1 plane, and that's this right here. This is the only time when it's 1-point perspective on the horizon line in the center is going to be the only time you'll be exposed to 1 plane. Anything else other than that, you're going to be exposed to 2 planes plus. Okay, so this is center. This is on horizon line. This is going to be left. And it's going to be this right here on horizon line. This is right. Okay, now let's go ahead and push our object up. So that means that we're going to be looking up at this odd item. So let's start with the center. Okay, vanishing point A, vanishing point B. Okay, this time around I'm going to put in the center as best as my ability. Okay, this is my halfway point, and I am going to leave myself some dead space, and then I'm going to draw my line. Okay, so that's right there. So it's going to be above the horizon line. This is dead space. Okay, reference point 1, reference point 2. We pretty much just did this a little while ago, so I'm not trying to go too crazy. Let me put this ruler to the side. I don't really need it. That's why I keep having a hard time moving, because my ginormous ruler keeps getting in the way. B, B. Okay, so that gives me that right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Straight down, straight down. That gives me 5, 6. Okay, we use A to find 6. These are your angular lines right here, by the way. If I neglected to mention that, I apologize. I know I did in the last video, but just in case I didn't. So now that gives me everything that I need. Okay, right now we're looking at the side of the box. Then we're looking at the bottom of the box. And then let's go ahead and define this a little bit more. So now we're looking at center above horizon line. See what I'm doing right here? All right, let's go ahead and repeat this for the left. And you pretty much want to keep doing this as best as you can. And again, this repetition is kind of boring at first, but let me tell you, if you grasp these fundamentals, man, you're going to be killing it later on when you start getting very complicated stuff. I'm just going to do my marking down here while I'm at it. Okay. Okay. My apologies. I'm going to give myself some space right there. Myself a reference line. Okay, this right here is just for my reference. 1, 2, vanishing point A, vanishing point B, and it's just repetition. A, A, B, B. Okay, so that gives me that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Go down, 5, 6. Okay, B, I'm going to use to find B to find with 5. And I'm going to use A with 6. And that will let me find the bottom of this box. And we're defining our square right here, just like we've done before. This is our side plane, and then this is our bottom of our plane. So now that this item is to, and I want to kind of keep showing you guys the differences between the 1 and 2 point perspective on their appearances. See how this seems more dynamic now that you're adding? So the more points you add to your illustration, the more dynamic it's going to look. But these two right here are similar. It's just that this is being affected by 1 vanishing point versus this being affected by 2 vanishing points. And that's pretty much what's happening right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Rinse and repeat. It is good for thy brain. Rinse and repeat. It is very good for thy brain. All right, so that's going to be my reference point. Point A, B, give myself a space, go up here, draw my line. 1, 2, 1, and I'm going to get a little faster as I go. Okay, that helps me find 3 and 4. Draw straight down because anything vertical is not affected. 5, 6. A crosses with 6. B crosses with 5. And that allows me to find the bottom of my box. Okay, we're going to go right here. There we go. Now looking not too shabby. Woohoo. All right, let's go ahead and now repeat. But this time, we're going to be looking down on the object. So the horizon line is going to be above it. So we're looking down at the subject. Remember the tennis shoe example. Okay, as usual. Oh, let me make sure I label these. So this is going to be upper left. Upper. I gotta be careful because I'm a little dyslexic. My brain kind of flips left and right. If you're dyslexic, I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. And no, it should not hold you from drawing. It's just you just got to be more careful when you take instructions from clients. That's all. Okay, draw myself a gap. Okay, this is from my reference. So vanishing A, vanishing B, and I'm gonna draw this just like before. It's the same thing we did up here, but it's at the bottom. So 1, 2. Okay, start with A, A, A. Okay, same thing. B, B. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw straight up. 5, 6. We use A to find 6. We use B to find 5. Notice I'm just repeating the same steps over and over and over again. And that's okay. Now in this case, let me see. We're only going to have one side on shadows because again, the darker tone was used to represent the bottom of the box. So for this, I'm just going to use the mid-tone right here for the side. And we haven't talked about values yet, and that's okay. But now we have our box. So this is center. I don't know, below. Yeah, so technical. Let me tell you what. All right, now let's go ahead and do the right side. A, B, okay, and again, just like we did before, if this is our halfway point, we're just going to kind of split this in half as a point of reference. I'm going to give myself some spacing. Then I'm going to draw myself my reference line. We got 1, 2, okay, vanishing point A, and I'm going to erase this so I don't confuse myself. It's okay to erase reference lines once you're done using them. Okay, A. Sure, the camera still focus. Right here. B, draw straight up, draw straight up. This gives me, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cut across, cut across. Whoop! There we go. Excellent. Good, good. Finding those angular edges. Good, 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 good. There we go. So that gives me that. Right there. Oh, make sure I define this border. Gotta define the border. My goodness. Heavens to Betsy. Okay, there we go. So we got that box right there. Now let's go ahead and do one more on the right side. I'm going to eyeball this. Vanishing point A, vanishing point B. This is my halfway line. I'm going to divide this section right here because we want it towards the right. And I'm going to call this, before I forget, lower, I don't know, lower left. There we go. And this is going to be lower to right. There we go. All right. So we got horizon line, vanishing point A, vanishing point B. We're going to find the center point as best as we can and divide this into half. That's going to give me a quarter. Going to give myself a space. Oop, my apologies on that. And I need to be nasty. My bad, my apologies. I'll try to fix that on post. Anyway. Gonna make myself laugh. Let me have this. Okay, so right there, 1, 2 is my reference line. Gives me my first 2 points. Again, intercept with A on 1. Intercept on 2 with A. With B, intercept on 1. B, intercept 2. B. Okay, so that gives me 3, 4. Draw straight up. Draw straight up. That gives me 5, 6. A intercepts with 6. B intercepts with 5. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of winging this real quick. I could have been very particular and draw the exact square, but again, like literally line these up, but I just really didn't feel like it, and it's a lot of time that I don't feel measuring, if I may be frank. Okay, so here is the entire sheet. Okay, not too bad. And this is an exercise that I will highly recommend for you to do. If you get lost and confused, just do one at a time. Literally just do one at a time. And it's the same step over and over and over again. You start by finding your vanishing, your horizon line or eye line. Go ahead, establish your vanishing points A's and B's. A and B in this case, I like to call them A and B. Some people like to call them other stuff. Then I create myself a reference line, and using this reference line is how I found my additional planes on my item. Now I want to show you guys a comparison side by side. Okay. So look at these, and if you read a lot of comics, you've probably seen a lot of these like type of dimensions. Let me turn off the supply list real quick, so that way you guys could see. Where are you? Supply list. There we go. Turn that off. Okay, there we go. That way you guys can clearly see the differences. Okay, if you ever seen like the top of a building, and I see this a lot of movies where you see like they're introducing you to the city, and you see like the top of the buildings. Like I literally can go right here, put a box on here, and then draw a couple boxes pretending to be like AC units, and a bunch of pipes and little boxes and stuff, and then maybe draw an antenna, and it will give me kind of like New York. Okay, and all you have to do down here is just put little sidewalks. And draw little cars. There we go, and you'll see a lot of those, but this kind of gives you more like in your face coming at you. It's all bursting from the center because I've been finished deriving from this one vanishing point here in the center. versus this is dynamic, but this is also dynamic. It's just a different way of, I don't know, I don't want to say diamonism because I'm not sure if that's the proper way to use that, but it has its uses, but it just depends what you're trying to go for. In this case, like if this was a city, it's trying to show you the scope and the vast size of the city, versus this right here. I tend to use more 2 point perspective when I'm drawing a lot of my stuff. It tends to give it a lot more dimension, more than just having character walking by wall. So, and let me show you. I'll draw a quick example using the 1 and 2 perspective. Okay, so this is my storyboard. Okay, this is my horizon line, this is my vanishing point. Okay, let's say this is a sidewalk and this is like a fence. And if you watch the Amazing World of Gumball, which I love that show. I love that show so much. I need to buy it on DVD. It was on Max and then they took it down. I was so sad when they did that. Um, but anyway, so you have a character here, and then they'll be walking by. Okay, so this is 1 point perspective right here. You have a character, and if I'm doing storyboards, I will indicate there's an arrow here, letting my audience know or my production team that this character is walking in this direction. Okay, so there's my character with his crazy body thing, whatever he's got going on in here, broken leg, whatever. Okay, so this is 1 point perspective. Now let's try to redraw this in 2 point perspective. Got the horizon line. Okay, and most of these, when you have something going on in 2 point perspective, the vanishing points are normally off the panel. And I'm gonna go right here a little closer. Okay, so this is the corner of this fence. Okay, and then right here, say this character's walking in this direction. Let's say right here is the sidewalk. It's probably it. Now that we have another dimension, chances are we're going to be exposing some additional buildings over here. There's the sidewalk. And keep in mind when you do production, especially when you're doing storyboards, you can't really fall in love too much with a panel. The object is just to kind of get the story out as quickly as possible and get the main shots squared in. Unless you're in a particular project where they demand for you to literally have to draw the character exactly. Most of your stuff is going to be pretty rough, like what we got right here. So here is the same fence right here in 2 point perspective. Here's another side right here, and then here is my character. Okay, because he is in perspective. This part of his body is going to be a lot bigger. This side of his body is going to be a lot smaller because I'm tracking the depth right here, the depth perception. Not depth perception, but you know what I mean. What items are closer to the camera. So it's be foreground, midground, background. So foreground, midground, background. So this item is closer to us, so this is going to be bigger. This part right here of his body is going to be, I don't know, mid-size, and then this item back here is going to be a little smaller because it's further away from us. But that is the difference of drawing this character between 1 point perspective, which is dynamic but is simpler, and 2 point perspective. Now, a lot of American animations, such as like Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, Adventure, Gumball, and I'm sure if you notice, if you go back and watch the show, They tend to often look to use characters, even Family Guy, that they're constantly walking in a three-quarter point of view. So you see the character standing right there, and they'll be standing, and their face is always kind of at three-quarter view. We'll get into this a little bit later. But when you look at the backgrounds are always in one point perspective. And then when they walk, their body never turns forward or sideways. They're just kind of walking on their side, three-quarters left and right. They made it work, and that's been used since forever. Think back in the Flintstones, Hanna-Barbera days, walking in three-quarter view. So the main reason why they do that is to cut down in production costs, because now you start getting into these really nice dynamic animations. That takes time to make sure the character stays consistent, and make sure that the character, the volume just looks like it's moving within that three-dimensional space. So this is more cost efficient, this is not. I know right now, I love watching a lot of anime. I like to watch all kinds of animation, but I gotta tell you that a lot of the Japanese anime the last couple of years, they really have stepped up their game. And I'm talking like, you're talking to someone who watched all of Naruto, including Boruto, Jujutsu Kaisen. I just finished watching Solo Leveling, and let me tell you, those shots, sometimes I sit there, I'll watch the show and then I'll go back to the fighting sequence and I'll try to watch it frame by frame. And the level of complexity to each one of those shots are just completely surreal. So yeah, but anyway, but this is pretty much what I want to just kind of talk about today. I wanted to talk about, let me push my camera back a little bit. So we did 1 point perspective in the last lesson. This week I wanted to talk about 2 point perspective in this lesson, and then I also kind of wanted to show you how this is implemented in a more detail, or more like, I don't know, artwork based or production. So I'm used to doing production work. I was a pre-productionist for several projects in my 20s and part of my 30s, and right now I'm trying to get back into it in my 40s. But yeah, so I just kind of want to show you an example how this is applicable to your artwork in a real world concept, a real world scenario. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me. I'll go ahead and I'll continue making another lesson. The next lesson, let me see what I got planned for the next lesson. Yes, believe it or not, I have a plan. Ha 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 ha. Ha. So the next lesson is going to be 3 point perspective. That's pretty much what I plan to do for the next one. But anyway, until then, I appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. Like I said, leave comments. I'll do my best to get to them. I'm still learning the platform, so if I don't respond to you immediately, please be patient with me. This is kind of new for me, so yes, I am learning as I'm going through this process. Y'all take care. Until next time.